OTAN, Outreach and Technical Assistance Network.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming for a couple of reasons. I haven't done a Saturday session in a really long time, and probably since before the pandemic. And so we really didn't know, how many and who would show up. And so to have all of you here, somewhat early in the morning on a Saturday morning really says a lot to us that it's important to you. It might be a good time slot for us to have webinars. And so you are giving us really good feedback on if this time slot works for future sessions. And two, AI is still really important to you. And we'll find out, how involved you are with AI and like, how much can I help you from the foundational level to all the way to, really just getting a deep dive into how do we use our CASAS reports, which are, vital for all of our agencies. And I'm so happy to see people from CASAS here. I saw Kay earlier. And so, hopefully we are able to kind of meld these two together. And like Anthony said, AI just changes so rapidly, faster than we've seen anything evolve. And so things that I talked to you today, I mean, who knows, maybe obsolete next week when we do a part two. So we'll see. Yeah, and we'll hopefully, we're able to work through this together. Let me get my share screen up. Excuse my messy desktop. All right. Are we able to see my title slide? You guys good?
I can see it, Alisa, yeah.
Perfect, thanks, Anthony. So Anthony, thank you to Anthony. He's my wingman today. He's in the background. And so if you could do me a favor as we're getting started, if you can go ahead and type your full name and agency in the chat, that really helps us with attendance. If you happen to be watching it with someone else who's from your agency or another agency, go ahead and type their name in there also. And then, just for me, curiosity, what is your current role at your agency? Are you an instructor, a support staff? Are you an admin? What is it that you do? And because I'm only working with one screen right now, I'm not going to be able to have too many. I'm not going to have the chat open. So if you do have some questions, throw it in the chat, and hopefully Anthony can vet them for me, and we can move on from that. So let me do some introductions. So my name is Alisa Takeuchi. I am an instructor and a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment for Gardner Grove Adult Education in Southern California. And I am an OTAN subject matter expert. And unfortunately, this is my 8th year being with OTAN. And I'm super proud of the work that we've been doing, especially during the pandemic, and really being on top of trying to give to you all the things that you need to be successful in integrating more technology into your programs and really kind of staying on top of things. And I think that's what OTAN really does well, is that we're really always looking out for the next best thing. And then how do we get that information and give it to you, the adult education field, for free to make you feel comfortable so that you start using it as well. All right, so again, this session is sponsored by OTAN, and I implore you, if you haven't yet, please use our resources. It's at otan.us. It's a very simple URL, and there is a plethora of resources there for you to utilize. We have articles, we have newsletters, we've got videos, we've got lesson plans. We've got so many things for you. And if you create an account, then you can be updated weekly or quarterly or however you decide, and what it is that you will be updated on. We have a YouTube channel. We're on social media. So, again, just knowing all the latest and greatest things that are happening in the field of technology in the classrooms really can help you. If you ever have a question or if you need help with something, please don't hesitate to email us at support@otan.us, or you can call us with the phone number on the screen. Oh, and in March, we always hold, or not in March, but every year we hold our own conference. So OTAN has its own conference, and it's the It's the best of everything. It's technology all day, every day. And it's going to be in March this year, and it's going to be down in Southern California at Long Beach Adults School. And it's cheap. So if you have a chance to have your agency send people, that's the one. So in this session, this is what I'm hoping that we'll cover. I know it's a very short session, but I really did that intentionally because I wanted to keep this very small so that it's not overwhelming for you, which AI really can be. And I just wanted, again, give you some foundations about if you're new to AI, what does that mean? How do I use it? And even CASAS reports too. If you're not very familiar with the CASAS reports, because somebody else does it for you in your agency or whatnot, you can really look at your CASAS reports as an instructor and say, hey, how can I use this information and create more material or things or ideas to help my students improve their scores before the next test. So these are the things that I hope that I can convey to you. And we'll also talk about ChatGPT. Again, it's going to be a brief introduction to ChatGPT and everything that we do today. I say ChatGPT kind of like Kleenex. It's kind of that Gen AI kind of generic thing. There are so many other AI websites out there that can help you, but kind of ChatGPT has been, the most familiar with, even if you don't use it, you've heard it. And so I'm just using that kind of as a blanket statement. But if you have your other AI tool that you've used that you prefer, most of the time you can use the same ideas that I'm showing you today in that. Different tools have different strengths and tools and fun things to do. But with what we're doing as far as like asking it what you want, it's going to be kind of the same. And then I'm going to show you how AI can support you. And then, at the end, hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A, some closing. And then there will be, this is a two-part session. And so I will be asking you to do a little bit of homework over the week if you can. And come back next week if you haven't already registered for, I saw some of you already registered for next week. Thank you. For next week to just share out what you learned or what you got out of what we learned today. And if you're not comfortable sharing, no problem. Just come and listen and learn to what other people said. And on top of that, I will be adding some new things as well. So it won't be just a show and tell. There'll be actually some new information too. So if you have time next week, please come back same time next Saturday, and we'll continue the conversation. All right. So if you could do me a favor, we're going to talk a little bit about CASAS first. And so in the chat, if you can just put in just one or two sentences about if you are currently using the teacher portal and or how do you use CASAS reports. So if you're using the teacher portal and you're using the CASAS reports, what are you doing? If you're not using the teacher portal yet, no worries. How are you using your CASAS reports? Whether you're getting them from your data manager or your administrator's giving them to you or nothing if you're not using your reports at all. I just kind of want to get a feel, see what people are saying. I'm going to open up my chat real fast. So let's see here. Oops. Oh no. Francisco loves the TE portal. Oh, CASAS people are going to love you, Francisco. Janice, do it through TE. Oh, I'm so happy to see so many of you using the teacher portal already. I wasn't really too sure because I know it's a new thing, and I know teachers and admin don't really like change a lot. But yeah, I'm very pleased to see that a lot of you are already utilizing the power of the teacher portal. Oh, Carly, yeah, for sure. Admin portal. Sorry, I guess I could have put that in there too. So yeah, if you are an admin and you are utilizing the admin portal, yeah, great. Put that in there too. Oh, love it, Janet. Good job. Yeah. I'm so pleased. I really didn't have an idea because we at Garden Grove are just going to start using the teacher portal in the spring as a pilot with some teachers, but at Tamalpais, where I work remotely, we have fully embraced the teacher portal. So, and I say, fully embraced lovingly. I mean, I don't know if everybody's quite on board with that, but we are using it as our attendants. Oh, great. I can't even catch up with all the chat. So let me see here. Nice. Okay, so yeah, a few of you are not using the teacher portal yet, and that's okay. Yeah, no problem, Marisela, no teacher portal, that's okay. We'll talk about it, and at some point, maybe if you ever get a chance to go to like a session or some sort of meeting where they're talking about teacher portal from CASAS, I would highly encourage it, especially if you're an admin too and you haven't really embraced using the teacher portal. It really is a really good source. And it really can empower the teachers to do their own reports instead of having the data manager having to do it. I'm going to close my chat, so I'm not going to be able to read. If you're still typing, keep going. I just won't be able to read it so fast. So great. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So I am going to talk to you about the teacher portal, and I'm glad I'm doing this because so many of you are already using it. But if you aren't yet, it's not a problem. What you're seeing or I'm going to show you both ends because, like I said, both of my two agencies, one does and one doesn't. So I'll show you what it looks like on both ends. But if these are reports that will be helpful for you to use the ChatGPT, then just jot them down and ask your data manager, your TE person at your agency for these reports. They'll send it to you, hopefully digitally, excuse me, and then you can upload it. Then you can do everything that we're doing. So if that's not something you've already done prior to today, don't worry about it. Just follow along, and you can do it again this coming up week. And let me move my Zoom. So what you see here is from the teacher portal, and this is the individual skills report. And when you get into your teacher portal, on the left-hand side, you have your attendance and you have your, your left-hand panel. You're gonna see reports, and then you're gonna have like a default homepage, and they're gonna see all the different reports. And I might have a slide that actually shows that, it just might be out of order. But what I do want to show you is that there are different reports for different things, obviously. So depending on what you are needing from it, what kind of information do you want? What questions are you asking may depend on the report that you're choosing. Or if you're looking at a report, then you can say, oh, I see this report, and now what do I want from this report? So I'm going to make myself sound bad for just a moment. Bear with me. So at Garden Grove, our data manager gives us our reports every time we do CASAS. After we do CASAS testing, they give us all of our reports and things. And honestly, I don't know how to read them. I'm not real big on data, and I hope I'm not the only one. I hope there are other people in here that are like me, where I look at these tables and there's all these there's all this information, and I really just don't know what it says. And so I kind of look at I look for certain numbers and things that I hope that I'm understanding what it says, but I really don't. I kind of put them away, and that's the end of that. But now with this kind of view with the teacher portal, to me, it looks a little bit easier to read. The tables are a little bit bigger. They're a little bit simpler. I can see things a little bit clearer. I don't really understand all of it, but I can kind of figure it out when I'm looking at this particular report, for example. So, you have up at the top, you have it's a reading test, it's what form it is, what date, and then the scale score, the NRS level, the form level, and then the number of items. There are a total of 36 items. This particular student got 23. Remember, this is an individual skills report. I got rid of the student information, but they attempted 36 problems, but they got 23 correct. So individually, and then it breaks it down by competencies, basic communications, all of these, and then what percentage, did they get? So as I'm looking at this, wow, employment was, pretty strong suit for them, as well as consumer economics, but community resources, this particular individual didn't quite do so well on those particular questions. Vocabulary, pretty much 60s, and then inference, which we all know, can be very difficult for our students, was at 50%. So looking at an individual skills report, I can tell that this particular student, what it is that they're struggling with. And with ChatGPT, I can do it individually too. I can say, analyze this data, help me create some worksheets to prepare the student for the next CASAS test, something like that. But for this one, so this one, you can see the two differences. It says individual skills profile summary by agency. So this is my Garden Grove one. And so this one, that means that the data manager uploaded it and sent it to me. And then on the right is the one from Tamalpais where I got to see it in CASAS, in the TE portal. And excuse me. So one breaks it down a little bit better than the other, but differently. And again, depends on how do you view data, like how do you see data better? But one of the key things that I do want to share with you is that when you're looking at some of your reports, be mindful where it says right here, total tests, because what that means is two things. That means how many times was this test given in the year. It's not how many individual students. It could be like this one, total students 22, total tests 22. So 22 of my students took this test one time. The other one, it says total test 21, but total students 16. So that means initially 16 students took the test. And then during the second round, 5 more took this particular test, and other students took a different test. So as you're getting your reports, sometimes they're not just one page, they're going to be multiple pages. And that first page, they could be broken up by the form number that the students took it in. So like, form A, B, C, D. So you could have one classroom and one student took an A, 5 students took a B, 16 students took a C, and 3 students took a D. Well, if you only look at that first report where one student took form A, it's not going to give you very accurate data for your class, if that makes sense, right? So it might be for that one particular student or 2 particular students. But my suggestion is look through the pages of the report and find the one that has the most students that took that test, because that will give you a better idea of how can you help your class as a whole. Yeah, right. So it's like the bell curve. You have some students that are at A, but you also have some students that are at D, but most of your students maybe are at the C, whatever level, I'm sorry. So depending on whatever level you're teaching, but find the report that has the most students that took that particular test and grab the data from that, because then you can generate some really awesome information to allow you to make worksheets that'll help most of your class. And then you can also go back and do the same thing for maybe that 1 or 2 students at the A level or the D level as well. Audrey, I see that your hand is raised. You want to unmute?
Yeah, I just real quick. So the report on the left is
Mhm.
in the original, and the one on the right is the portal, but it's the same report, or they just renamed it, or is it 2 different reports?
That's a really good question. I was thinking about that earlier, because at my school at Garden Grove, they give us this and he calls it the class performance, but it says individual skills. So I'm not too sure. I don't know like why the titles are different, but as far as like, and then you can also see that the report on the teacher portal report also gives like a more a detailed information, especially going through the competencies here. So yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if they're exactly 1-to-1, and maybe Kay or somebody else from CASAS or anybody, if you know the answer to that.
Yeah, you have 2 different types of reports up here. You have the individual skills profile, is exactly what it says. It's a report on an individual student. The one on the right, class performance, that's for a whole class. And one is looking at how the individual student performed, and the other is looking at the competency areas that the class, how the class performed on the competency areas.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kay. I now see it. I think when my data manager gave this to me, they said, because I don't have access to it at Garden Grove, and I asked for this particular class reports, and this is what they gave me. So I just assumed, but yeah, now that I'm looking at it, because I saw total test 22 and total students 22, I thought this was the report that 22 of my students took this test, but I can kind of see now, well, yeah, I'm not, yeah, I mean, I understand.
It
So,
is 22 of your students took the test,
but it's yeah, because this one,
but
I
it's
did,
a different, it's
Yeah.
looking at the competencies on the test rather than the individual performance like the left one is.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. And this one, I was, and I guess I didn't think about it too much because it doesn't have a student's name on the one on the left, on my Garden Grove one. It didn't have their student name on it. So that's why I just assumed it was the class one. So again, I'm sorry about that confusion. So thanks, Audrey, for bringing that up. And thank you, Kay, for explaining that. But when you go to ask, if you don't have your teacher portal and you're asking your data managers for some reports, make sure that you're getting the class performance, unless you do want your individual students reports. And again, some agencies and some teachers at my school, we give the students their individual reports as well. And, you know, try to explain it to them. It's a little difficult for some of them to kind of understand or grasp the idea, but yeah, they can get their own individual reports as well. And then when we do start using the student portal, they'll be able to access it as well on their own. So again, here is the reading. This is the form C. There were 11 students who took the test and then 13 times again. So a couple of students might have taken it twice or, you know, things like that, because they you know, when they did their pair score, it kept them in the same form level, and then others moved up or down. And so again, these are just different ways to look at your reports. Some people really appreciate, you know, the bar graphs. They can kind of see things, you know, clearer. Some people like seeing the percentages and the data and then breaking it down this way. So when you go into your teacher portal or get reports from your data manager, then, you know, just understanding how do you read your reports best, if you do. Janet.
Hi, yes.
Hi.
So, can you go back to that last
I sure can.
slide?
Yeah.
So my confusion has been where the number is. You have like 78, 273, because originally I thought it was how many, the number, not how many of those questions were on that assessment, but how do you get 273?
Yeah, I think my
Do we
understanding.
know what that is?
Yeah, I'm going to say what I think it is, and then Kay might be able to jump in too. I
Okay.
think it's how, okay, so we know that on the CASAS test for, let's say, details, there are X amount of questions on details, okay? And then times that by the 13 tests that have been taken.
Oh,
And
okay.
then 60% of those 273 were correct. And
Got it.
that's my interpretation, but Kay, is that incorrect or is that okay?
Correct. Thank you.
Oh, yay. Oh, yes. Yes. My Saturday's going to be good. Yeah. So yeah, I know the numbers seem a little bit confusing. So you can see details, you know, carries more weight, let's just say, quote unquote, because there are far more questions in that particular form C. And because there were 13 tests that were taken in form C, they multiply that. And so 60% of those questions of the 273 were correct. Great question. Thank you, Jenna, for asking, because I'm sure everybody else was probably wondering the same thing. So if, my slide didn't adjust. When you're in the teacher portal and you're actually looking at one of the reports, whatever one you're choosing, on the top right-hand side, you're going to have your options. And this is the one that you're going to choose to download, excuse me, your report, whichever report you would like. You can also export it as an Excel. You can print it, you could do all the things. But for us to use it with ChatGPT, we want to download it onto our computers so that we can upload it into Chat, if that makes sense. So once I do the download on my particular computer, because of my version of my computer in Windows, my downloads come up at the very top right-hand corner, and you'll see a bubble. And then you'll also see the download icon. Now, for some of you, I know I've been on other computers like my old laptop and things like that. It was down on the left-hand corner and it went into my downloads on the bottom left-hand corner. So really depending on where you are. So as soon as you hit that download on TE or wherever you're downloading something, look for the bubble and then look for this arrow with the download button, the icon, and that's where it is. If you don't see it at all, not a problem. You can still find it on your computer in your downloads file. So there are many ways to get to the same thing. All right, we're going to do another interactive. And I know some of you might be multitasking right now, but if you could just kind of keep an ear out just for these little interactive things. So in the chat, if you can just do me a favor, just do 1, 2, or 3. 1, I've never used ChatGPT or I've used it very little, minimally. 2, I've used it, but I don't use it regularly. Or 3, I use it daily. I love it. It's my life. Let's see where you're all at. Just 1, 2, or 3. All right, let's see here. 2s and 3s. I've got some 1s, 2s, 1s. I think the 2s are non-committal. They probably love it so much, but they're just too afraid to say so. I love that the ones that are saying 1 are in here. Thank you so much for coming. I know this can be a little bit overwhelming. I hope that I can break it down, foundationally so that it won't be so scary for you and that I can help you. So most of you are 2s. And then of course we have our superstars that are 3s that have embraced it and love it and live it and live it. So that gives me a really good idea of where I need to go with this. Excuse me. Let's start with ChatGPT. Remember, I was on my teacher portal and I got my report. I downloaded it. It's on my computer now. Or if you're just on your computer, your data manager emailed you your reports and you've downloaded them from your email. Now what we're going to open up a new tab on your computer. So if you're doing this in real time, go ahead and open up a new tab. And then you're going to either log in or create your ChatGPT account. And I suggest 2 things. When I talk about AI with participants, I say, start your account with school stuff with your school email. Keep everything separate. And then if you want to play around with ChatGPT or whatever Gen AI you want, then use it with your personal email. Kind of keep the 2 separate. Does it really matter? No, but it kind of keeps you in line with like, this is my school stuff, this is my personal stuff. And maybe the 2 shall never meet. So what I do, even when I create my account, I go here and then I just go straight to continue with Google, because at both of my schools, we do have workspace. We have a work Gmail account. So I clicked on that. I clicked on my school email account and then it created everything for me. Okay. So for those of you who either have one or the other, or you don't have either one, just something to think about. Do you have to do it that way? Of course not. But just my suggestion. So remember that we had that download report. Again, if you don't see that bubble anymore because you've been working on other stuff, that's okay. You still have that download up at the top. Or for those of you who might have uploaded it onto your computer through your email, it might be in your downloads file. Once you open ChatGPT, it says, what can I help you with? And you'll see that there's a little attachment, one of those attachment icons. I don't even worry about that. I don't click on, I can click on it, find my find my file in my downloads and bring it in. But normally what I usually do is I just go right here to my downloads or to my little bubble, and I click and I drag it right into the screen and it goes poop and it pops up for me. So whatever's easiest for you to get your download, your CASAS report into ChatGPT, whether it's click and drag or click and find and insert. Okay. So again, look for your downloads icon, whether it's here or in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. It could be there too. Or you can click on the little icon here and then it'll say browse, or where do you want to find your report? Go to your downloads file, and then you'll see the report. It should be the very top because you just did it. Okay. So once you have that, it'll have a round circle like it's thinking because it's going to be uploading. So just go ahead and upload, wait for it to come. And then when it's finished, you'll see a pink box like this. And that means your PDF has been uploaded. If anybody's having some issues or something, you might be able to put it in the chat, and maybe Anthony or Audrey or some other people can give you some hints or some advice on how to get to your reports, or literally just sit back and relax. You don't have to do this in real time. It's not a problem. All right, so what can I help you with? Oh my gosh, my so sorry, my things didn't format very well. So basically what it says is, what do you want ChatGPT to do? So I always recommend, and different people do their prompts differently, but I want it to be as simple as possible and as efficient as possible. So I always start with an action verb. I just want ChatGPT to acknowledge what it is that I want it to do. And I start with an action verb. So analyze the data. Create me a worksheet for each content below 50%. Make the worksheet a 10-question multiple choice activity for adult intermediate ESL students. Include an answer key separately. Okay, so it's, what, 2 or 3 sentences, but it has so many of those action verbs in it that it understands what it is that I'm looking for and who am I looking, who's it going to be for, and then what data is it going to analyze. So, this was just my prompt that I put in here, and you can use it as a template and just, recreate it for whatever it is. Maybe 50% is too high or too low. Maybe, a lot of your students have, let's say 70% or something, and then one was 60%. Well, you're going to change that to a 60% because you want the information from that particular one. Or maybe you only want vocabulary. Analyze the data in the vocabulary section. Analyze the data for the inference section. Create me and I'll show you some examples with that part too. But again, you make it what you want it to do. If you could just say, gosh, I wish I could or I wish it could Don't wish it anymore. Just put it in ChatGPT and it can. If you don't make the prompt exactly perfect, it doesn't matter. You can go back and regenerate your prompts, and it continues with the conversation. You don't have to start all over again. So if I mess up with one of my prompts and I'm like, oh, I forgot to ask it to do blah, 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 I could just ask it to do blah, blah, blah without starting all over again. It remembers what the past conversation was. So as soon as you do that, you hit enter. If you are not familiar with ChatGPT or any Gen AI, watch the magic. It just starts flowing like a waterfall. You'll just start seeing it just have all this information. So here's my prompt. And then it says, based on the data, the content areas with scores below 50% were vocabulary in level C, main idea in level C, and inference in level D. So it actually went through, because there was like 4 pages of my report. So it actually broke it down for me with my different levels. And then it says, oopsie, sorry. Oops, what happened? Oh no, go back. It says, I'll create a 10-question multiple choice worksheet for each content area with an answer key. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments. So then this was the, just an example of one of them. So it says, what is the meaning of the word academic? And then it gave, so what it did was it gave me another set of tools and information that I didn't have to create myself to help my students work more with some vocabulary that maybe they just, we just never covered, or they forgot, or whatever. So if I can continue to do some of these worksheets specifically on vocabulary, maybe next time when they do their CASAS test, their CASAS scores will go up. Okay. I'm so sorry. I don't believe that I can't believe my things didn't format correctly, but it says, wait, I forgot. Tell it to create an MS Word, Microsoft Word. This is a brand new thing for me. About 2 weeks ago, I was doing another session and I was playing around with it. And I didn't say, do it in Microsoft Word. It prompted me. It says, I can create this in a Microsoft Word, in Microsoft Word format for you to edit. Would you like that? And I went, yes, please. And so then I clicked on it and it gave me a link to click on, and it became the Microsoft Word. So I can go back and save it and then change it and edit it the way I wanted it to. Otherwise, it saves inside ChatGPT, and then I copy and paste it into a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word. Yeah, Audrey.
Do you have the free version or the paid version?
I have the free version.
And it did that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So I am a cheapskate, for the most part, I'll just admit, and I will try my best not to pay for anything unless I really feel like it's worth it. And I'm almost considering maybe ChatGPT, but I'm not sure yet. I'm on the fence. But yeah, this is all the free version. Now, I'm telling you all these like wonderful things that it'll do, but it's to a limit, right? It's completely free and you can use this, but you can only do so many. It's either so many word or so many documents, or it depends on the data. So it'll allow you so much data per day, and then afterwards it'll say, "Oh, you've run out of your limit on data. Please come back at 6:13 tomorrow morning." So it'll choose some random time for me to come back, and I can continue the conversation or start all over again. Or if you're really savvy, you can just create another ChatGPT account with a different email and then, do it again. So, up to you, whatever, floats your boat. So I said, create this in MS Word. So you can see that it gave me a link, but look what happened. and exactly what I said was, wait, what? So it gave me my worksheet, the same one that I had done in the ChatGPT, except it gave me all of my questions, but no answers. And I was like, what happened? So I was not pleased. And so I went back and I said, what happened? I said, there are no options for answer for any of the multiple choice questions. And then he says, oh, it seems I've overlooked adding specific answer questions. And again, I tell people this too. I try to be as polite as possible because you never know when the AI is going to come back and, the robots are going to come and take over. So, I try to be polite. I want to be one of those people so that they're not going to be looking for me. But again, I was not pleased with some of this that happened. So it came back and it created me this, which is I was very pleased with. So again, you're going to be in awe of how wonderful ChatGPT or any Gen AI is, but there will be mistakes and you're going to have to look at, don't take it for face value. Don't just go automatically print it, go, here you go, students, without actually looking at it. You're going to want to check it and make sure, check for accuracies, check for, level appropriateness, check for all of that, because, you're going to want to make sure you make some adjustments if necessary. Yeah, Audrey.
So the report that you uploaded, the 4 pages, did that include like the examples of each question, or how close to like the vocabulary level was actually in the test? I guess I'm trying to see.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I don't know what the tests look like. So, but they did break it down: vocabulary level C, and there's 10 questions, and then main idea level C, and then there was inference for level D. So it just took that information from my reports and just created something that they thought it was. And so that part, I kind of have to just look at it. Is for me, my class is intermediate. So, is it intermediate appropriate? And then I just use it for that, because again, we're not creating worksheets to what's the phrase I want to look? We're not teaching to the test. Yeah, right. We're not teaching to the test. We're teaching the competencies and the vocabulary to prepare them to take that test at that level.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So then it says, so then I took that same information and now I'm like, okay, well, inference seems to be kind of an issue for them. So I want to create a reading passage. I want to create some reading passages. And again, this is just an example of one. I could do this many, many, many times if I, once a week, we're going to do a reading passage with some comprehension questions and things like that. So I said, create me a reading activity with 5 comprehension questions and 2 critical thinking questions to help my students more with the 3 content areas. And then this is what it came out. Now, I kind of looked at this and went, I know my students. And I was like, some of it seems to be a little bit difficult. And so I asked it to make it easier, but I went to Audrey's session at CCAE, if anybody else did too. And I believe it was CCAE. It was something. It was something. And that you can just literally pick out specific words that are too hard and say, hey, redo these words. If the general story in itself is pretty okay, but just some words were a little too difficult, or you want to make them a little bit more difficult, then you can actually pick and choose some words as well. And then I asked it to do 5 comprehension questions. You can ask it to do 10. You can ask it to do, as many as you want. And then I always, whenever I do a reading passage, I always ask it to create critical thinking questions. It's just something that I think that all students should kind of be aware at, even at level A, even at your beginning level ESL students. I think that it's a good idea to, have them start thinking about critical thinking and, in a way that will help them maybe develop further skills for when they do take the C and the D, test. And then this is the prompt that I wrote. This is too hard, making the reading passage and questions easier. So again, I'm just letting it know, hey, I appreciate the effort, but it was too hard, do it again. So then I said, create another reading passage from the data that my students have difficulty. We want them to continue to practice. So again, this was just another one on inference. So then it created me a story with that. I did, I think because I use it so much, it remembers kind of my other past conversations as well. So it understands that I teach adult ESL students. But the very first time I said, create me a story, for beginning ESL students. I think I said something like that. And it said, once upon a time, there was a, I was like, okay. So I went back and I said, don't make it a fairy tale, make it for adults. And then it was like, oh, okay. And then it reformatted it. And I haven't had to ask it to do that again. And it never gives me any kind of like fantasy or fairy tale like stories. So again, it does kind of regenerate itself into remembering kind of your style, your requests, your things. And then it kind of helps it along. So I'm moving on to admin now. And this is what I was talking with you about. When I look at something like this, my brain goes crazy. I really just don't know what I'm looking at. And so, my director, bless her heart, she gives us these, every month we have a staff meeting and she gives us our data for, whatever we're talking about. And everybody's looking at it. We're talking about it. We discuss it and things. And I look at it and my eyes cross. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm not sure how to read it and things. And so of course I never say anything because I'm too embarrassed that I don't understand. And again, I hope I'm not the only one. I hope some of you in the room right now are nodding your head going, yes, I understand what you're saying. So what I did was I uploaded this into ChatGPT. And I said, summarize this data for me in 1 paragraph. And so it did. And so I got permission from my director. So don't worry if you're worried about, this information. She said it was fine. But so, it really just kind of broke it down for me. It explained what it is that it's showing in the data. And then it kind of gave it to me in a way that I can understand it. Like reading this paragraph, I still don't understand data, perfectly or anything, but at least I understand it more than when I was looking at the numbers. So again, you can have ChatGPT do this, or you can have it break it down into bullet points. And I think I already said this, but any PDF, it doesn't have to be your CASAS reports, but this is what we're focusing on. But you could have like a PDF of anything and you could say, summarize it for me, or give me the bullet points, or, change this to a 2 paragraph. Like if you had a reading passage for your students, but it was too long, just say, recreate this in 2 paragraphs, with some questions, blah, blah, blah. So again, I'm just giving you the tools to know how to upload and download and put it in ChatGPT and then start asking it what you want it to do with anything, with any of your, with your reports. So hopefully you're looking at this going, wow, that makes a lot more sense to me than the previous screen. So then I said, suggest ways to increase these numbers for the 24-25 school year. So that report that I uploaded was for the 23-24 school year. And so then I just want to say, like, hey, how can we improve those numbers? We're going to have to do this report again. So what can we do in the school year to improve these kinds of data? So if you're an admin in the room right now, I'm hoping that maybe this could be helpful for you. Not only, helping you to analyze your data, your reports and things, all the hundreds of reports that you guys have to do that I don't have to do as a teacher, but that you guys have to do. And then how can you use those reports to help you improve your agency? Like what kinds of things can you be doing? So it says improve student retention, and it gives some examples, tailor instruction to student needs. These are, you're looking at it going, oh yeah, but having it in a list, like right there in front of your face going, oh, this could become a checkbox for us, or these could be things that we put on our calendar to make sure. This could be included in your SIP. This could be included for WASC. These are things that could be helpful for you, even though you might know it, intuitively. Having it as a list going, oh yeah, we need to do this, or, oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, we could totally improve on that to help increase blah, blah, blah. So again, I'm just using the resource that I have as ChatGPT to take a look at these reports for me and make it accessible for me to understand as an admin or as a teacher, as a support staff. How can I understand the reports better so that I can now take it the next step to make it better for my students, our agency, our program? And then you can ask for advice, provide specific ways for each strategy for our agency to utilize. So then it broke it down to all those different things of the blocks. And then it says, hey, assigning a staff member to monitor attendance through TaskPro and flag students with irregular patterns. So again, you as an admin, you might be wanting to look at this and going, so-and-so could be doing that. That's a good idea. Or, flexible scheduling, maybe, if you're not offering high flex, it's suggesting maybe, hybrid or high flex classes might, take your numbers and skew them upward, because now you're offering other options for students to increase persistence or, enrollment. Tailor instruction to student needs. And then it gives you, so I just took it and I broke it all down. I went from one, just give me a summary of what we're talking about, to suggest how I can improve it for next year. And then 3, give me specifics on what I should do. So again, I just kind of broke it down. Could I have done it all in one prompt? Probably, but I don't know if it would have done it as well as it did this time. I just wanted to see it. And again, I don't want to overwhelm myself. I want to see it as it is, as I'm going through it. So it's all up to you on how do you process information. And there's no like judgment. They're not going to be mad at you for asking too many times, or I still don't get it. Can you break it down even further for me? Or I don't understand. Can you make this easier? I mean, they're fine. They're just like, okay, no problem. Blah, 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 blah. So, what I was telling you about is that AI is just evolving so quickly. I used ChatGPT. I used one of many. And, there is a whole plethora. There's probably 40 more, that are there. But these ones were broken down by Ditch That Textbook, Matt, and these are the 40 that he chose for teachers. And so again, if there's some that you see that you've heard about or you're familiar, they all do, great things. They're all trying to specialize in what do they do. But don't get overwhelmed. It's kind of like textbooks. You have a whole library full of textbooks. You're not going to choose all of them. You're just going to pick 1 or 2, see if you like them or what do you like about them, and then use them for that purpose. But again, these are just more places where you can go if you want to do some other things or have more tools, things like that. So what we're going to talk about for homework is that what I would love for you to do is over the course of the next week is I want you to start looking at some of your reports, whether you have them accessed through the teacher portal, or you can ask your data manager to give you some reports, and then play with it with what we talked about, work with ChatGPT or any other Gen AI that you want. And then just, come back next Saturday and share what you learned or some aha moments or some challenges and things, so that we can, listen and learn from each other. Anthony, did you have something? I saw his hand, but I don't know. Oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry, Lisa. My having trouble with the audio. Yeah, why don't you finish your thought here, and then we do have some questions in the chat in addition
Sure.
to other questions that folks might have. So when
Yep,
you're ready
that's
to
perfect.
take those, let me know.
Yep. I think we're right there. I think this is the last slide. So, yeah. And again, so for all of you who are listening to this, and maybe you're still overwhelmed, maybe this was still too much. Don't worry about it. Just take your time, or come back next week and just listen to other people's how they did, what they did, and then maybe you'll feel more comfortable trying it yourself, after next week too. So let me see. Okay, yeah. So let me just leave it on this one. And Anthony, go ahead. I'm going to put my chat up too so I can kind of see. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we can kind of work maybe backwards here.
Sure.
First question was um, about access to the slides. Is there a way for you to share the slides at some point,
Yeah.
maybe before we finish today?
I don't think so because you saw that my slides had a bunch of like the
Okay.
formatting issues. I don't want to send it to you like that. Let me fix it and then I'll send it out to Anthony, and then we have your attendance. If you have not, I guess you have to be registered. Since we have you on our registration, then we can send it out. As soon as I get it fixed, I'll get that to you guys.
Okay. There's been a discussion about whether or not ChatGPT can talk to you or read back the results. Audrey put something in the chat about, sorry, Audrey, I saw your comment somewhere. ChatGPT can read what it creates. At the bottom of what it creates, there is a sound button or maybe a little
Yes.
microphone icon, something like
No,
that.
it's an actual sound button, and if you click on that, it will speak to you. But ChatGPT just created a new voice control thing, kind of like Google has, and for web, because ChatGPT has it for the mobile app, but it's a paid thing. But if you go there now, you'll get a 30-day free trial to try this voice thing. But there's also an extension that you can put on there for voice, but yeah,
That's voice to text. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then there was a question, Alisa, about can ChatGPT create practices for listening?
Not specific, like it won't create the audio. It'll create you dialogues, right? So if you wanted to, if you wanted your students to practice dialogues, it can practice, it could create conversations, but there are other AI tools, other AI websites or, resources that can do voiceovers like podcasts and, like things like that. So there are other tools, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, actually, maybe we should suggest because actually Audrey, Alisa, and I and a few others, we were at a couple of conferences right before Thanksgiving, and we talked a lot about Notebook LM. And one of the things that Notebook LM does is basically create a podcast of the documents or files that you upload to Notebook LM. Notebook LM is owned by Google, so it's a Google product. But now that Michelle asked the question, that might be a very interesting kind of a listening activity. Maybe not so much on the reporting end, but if you uploaded some content to Notebook LM and then asked it to generate questions, and then I wonder if it would read it back in the podcast voice. So we'd have to experiment a little bit, but to Lisa's point, like there are maybe other AI tools that could do that.
Yeah, there's another one called 11 Lab, and you can type in your whatever it is, and then you can choose voices up to 2 or 3 voices if you want to have a conversation, and they're very realistic listening voices.
Yeah.
So,
On the admin side, a couple of just comments or thoughts about when you were showing the NRS table results, Alisa, that this would be great for those of us who are working or starting to work on our 3-year plans for CAPE, or any kind of like planning documents, so in between the 3-year plans, we also do the annual plans as well for CAPE. So yeah, I mean, right, because those plans ask you to bring data into the planning process, right? So to Elisa's point, like sometimes either there's so much data or we don't know exactly what we're looking at, or we don't really know how to kind of bring those results or synthesize those results into the questions that are a part of the planning process. So yeah, just yeah, I think some people are now thinking about that 3-year plan coming up, the SIP that's coming up, the other plans that folks are asked for during the year. So
Yeah, and I think another good point to that is that you can ask it, and again, you have to check for accuracy and things, but you can see what trends do you see, or, I don't know, discover trends that could be, happening in the next 3 years. I mean, obviously you can't predict what's going to happen in the next 3 years, but at least according to your data from maybe the last 3 years or the, last 2 years, like what are the trends that they see? And then they can also make you some suggestions and things like you've been improving on this, but we saw a slight dip in this, and then they make a suggestion on how you can, bring your numbers back up, things like that.
Alisa, this might be a good point. You didn't really mention it in your presentation today, but just the question sometimes people have about PII, personally identifiable information, right? So, these reports, they might have names of students or whatever in the reporting.
Right.
Can you make any suggestions about that or any comments about that?
For my presentation or just in general?
Well, just in general, yeah.
Yeah, it's as far as yeah, you're gonna have to be careful because, well, and ChatGPT is actually very good about that too. Like it recognizes sometimes like there's personal information in there, and it will say, "I'm sorry, I can't analyze this data because blah 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 blah." So I mean, it will kind of step it forward for you as well. So I was telling you that you could probably do this for individual reports. I haven't done it for an individual student myself that had like a name and information on there, so that, yeah, that could be something, but you would definitely you wouldn't want to share that out to the public if you were using individual reports. Yeah. And even and just on the other flip side of that, one time I was trying to create a worksheet for my students on like personal information, and I was like, create me a whatever it was, an application or a job application that students could read, and it says, "I'm sorry, I can't do that because there's too much personal information," even though I want it to be. And so then I think I reworded and said, create a fictional student, create a fictional employee, and then it did it. But yeah, it didn't quite understand what I was requesting. Yeah, Audrey.
Just wanted to note, if I could, if you use it for individual, you can think of maybe students that are having a hard time in your class. What's great about ChatGPT is it will create activities for students with disabilities based on your original content. So if you took your original content and uploaded it and said, I have a student with this type of disability, or just in general, what are some differentiating activities you could suggest? And so, there are so many things you can do with this. It's crazy. But for those students that, they might not know, but you're thinking they have a disability, it can help with differentiation.
Yeah, and who knows, it could be beneficial for any student, whether they have that disability or not. But yeah, to hone in on some of the challenges that some students may have would be perfect. Were there any more, Anthony, or more comments?
I don't see any at the moment. I am going to put a link in the chat to an evaluation form for Alisa's session today. So if you could take a minute to finish that before we leave today or right after today's session, that would be fantastic. Alisa, why don't you finish up your slides as well?
Oh, yeah. And I just wanted to, put this out there for you guys. If this is something that you're just like, oh my gosh, my agency really needs something like that, or my teachers need to hear this, or anything, please reach out to us on this or any topics that are related for, technology integration. We now, because AI is such a big thing, we have a lot of SMEs that are there. We're working with AI. We're doing all kinds of things with it. And so whatever your needs are, we can find somebody to help you either do it directly on your campus or, as a webinar. Marjorie will walk you through what needs to be done to get that happening for you. But please don't be afraid to reach out for us. It's free and we're more than willing to do it for you. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys so much for coming. Again,
Alisa,
thank you for coming on a Saturday. Yeah.
Alisa, sorry, Rebecca just wanted to get clarification on the homework. Homework is just to play with what we learned today and come back prepared to speak about it, question mark?
Yeah, yeah. And then just, for the homework part of it, yeah, just whatever you learned today that you felt like could be helpful for you, or you're still unlocking how to do everything, just do it and then come back next week and either share your struggles or your successes or listen to other people. And then I'm also going to give some other tips and stuff too for maybe some people who didn't come to this week, they'll get something out of it too. So thanks, Rebecca. That's it. That's our time. I flew by for me. I don't know about you, but I hope that your head is spinning, your brains are, the wheels are spinning, and that I will see you next Saturday at 9 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.